All right, hello. Let me quickly do a check-in with Chapter 9 of Part 4 of Gulliver's Travels. This is Voyage to the Land of the Winhams, where there was one of these grand assemblies happened while he was there, where apparently his master goes to, and he kind of shared with him some details, not all details, about it. And he talked about the big thing that they actually do debate all the time, which is what to do about the Yahoos, whether it be best to exterminate them, because they view them as interlopers. That there's basically, it seems the history is two of them appeared. There seems to be a theory that maybe they're like homoculi that came they came from from the earth. Though they're sort of also, you could go with a kind of a Winham, the Yahoo kind of Adam and Eve, um, driven off by their own type and further fell and degraded until these two corrupted ones came and settled here, at which point they fathered the whole great herd of, I guess, really interbred yahoos who do, are just are horrible. And they take for proof that they are interlopers, that everybody, not just the Winhams, but all the other animals and creatures of the land, also react with kind of loathing towards the Yahoos. They seem unnatural to all the inhabitants there. So it was like, we should just exterminate them all. Now, Gulliver's master actually has a thought on this, because it's like, oh, he tells about Gulliver, and how Gulliver is like, actually seems to have kind of a little bit of reason, though he does say it's like, there he is about as far from from Winhams as he is from the Yahoos, or he's as far as they are from the Winhams. Like, he's in between things, so he's still pretty kind of messed up. Even the very sympathetic thing was Master, but the Master says, but they did tell us about what they do to horses in their kingdom, which they don't apparently have the Winhams there don't have reason, and they castrate them to make them more passable. But also, it's a great, hey, population control. And so what we can do is, just from now on, castrate all the young Yahoos, and they will die off naturally without bloodshed. Though it's like, it's eugenics that they're proposing. And the notes in the back of this do talk about various projects of people proposing this kind of thing to do for, like, to do it to criminals, or Swift maybe, and could also be in a more satiric note, saying, oh, we should do that to all the beggars and kind of other kind of unruly sorts in the countryside, is castrate them all, thus decreasing the surplus population, to use a Dickensian tone, very much kind of like, okay, this is the progressive thing again. So there's that. And apparently he also says, and something else happened, but my master just didn't want to tell me at that point. So it'll go on. The notes say, like, oh, Winhams don't tell untruths, and concealing something is an untruth. And this seems to be another signal of how Gulliver's presence is kind of subtly corrupting his master, that he doesn't share what they actually decided about Gulliver at this meeting. But we'll find out about that more later, at the appropriate time. So yes, we get that. Then they talk about, like, how they build stuff, what kind of tools that the Winhams use, the learning of the Winhams. Their poetry is apparently quite amazing. Even if they don't have a written language, they do have a rich oral tradition, and this seems to be kind of based, slightly on kind of like Spartan ideas. Sparta didn't have a written language, but they had a rich oral tradition. And again, this whole thing of their pre-fall, they don't need this. There's how they build stuff. The manner of the burials, which also kind of gets into the idea of death, because when one of the Winhams dies, there isn't any outward sign of grief and stuff like that, and it's like they just went back to their first mother. They can, because they're so free from disease, they usually live to about 75 years old. Not anything, not 80, but 75. They usually kind of have the sense of that. They start kind of fading a bit. Their neighbors around them will visit. At the very end, they will return those visits on a sleigh drawn by yahoos, and do that, and visit. But like, they apparently there this elder Wyndham was going to come over to the thing and visit him with the family. The family showed up and they said, well, he died. So we were just a little bit late because we had to arrange his burial, which apparently is burying him in some secret, very private place off to the side. It's not like an ostentatious memorial. This isn't a culture that worships or fetishizes death. It's like, no, it's just something that happens, and we go on. Um, and actually, that was one of the things, is like, oh, okay, if we're going to do this eugenics program for yahoos, we need to properly breed up asses, donkeys, as a beast of burden, because they smell less, they're much more better behaved, they'd be much better, kind of that kind of an animal. I don't know why they would have used yahoos to begin with. We'd make terrible unruly beasts of burden. So they're going to do that as well. So that does seem to be the plan. And there's apparently a tradition in Swift and others of comparing men to asses, and how, asses just could get the job done way better. Um, and in the end, I think, yeah, it's talking about like defectiveness of language, which is just more simply like, them not knowing, not having kind of the concepts for various things. Like, they have no word in their language to express anything that is evil, except what they borrow from the deformities or ill qualities of the yahoos. So they have a tendency to just kind of like, they have a tendency to affix the epithet of Yahoo to the stuff, like, so, a stone that cuts, or a folly of a servant, or stuff like that. They just kind of add Yahoo to it. That is their only conception of evil, or malformness, or unnaturalness, is using that Yahoo. So it kind of goes back to that whole thing. They do actually have a thing there, and it's in the notes as well, that like when this guy dies and doesn't come for the visit, and the wife comes, that about 3 months later she dies, and that could just be simply like their like age, so that it was around the same time that they died, or there could be a little implication there that while they don't outwardly express deep emotions, that maybe she died of a that particular mare died of a broken heart. So yeah, that is that little section of the Voyage of Wyndham's. And now things are going to go to hell for poor Gulliver, because he is going to be cast out of Eden because he's the snake. At least that seems to be the implication from what I'm reading, and what I'm all the hints I'm getting heavily in the note section. All right, more videos later.